First memories of Roland-Garros for me, I was born in 1970, so when I was falling in love with the sport as a 7, 8-year-old, this is the era when Chris Evert and Bjorn Borg were the king and the queen. So it was pretty easy to fall in love with them and to fall in love with this environment here. It just looks so amazing. The vistas of Paris that you would get, along with obviously Chatrier Stadium, was just magnificent. In 1991, it was the first time that I was a top-seeded player. I was seeded in the top 8. So I had some confidence. I had a cushion in the draw where I wasn't going to hit a top player early. And I was optimistic. I wasn't overly confident, but I was optimistic that I could make a deep run. And once I got into the quarterfinals, it was all a new experience for me. Never been to a quarter of a major before. So it was all, every day I was going onto the court to play was something new and a new challenge to overcome, as well as difficult players. But I was up for it, and I was in a different place in my career, ready to handle those moments. It was a big match for me. Andre and I were rivals. You know, we came from the same tennis academy, the Bollettieri Academy, so I remember it for sure.
Cette année, 3-6, 6-4, 2-6, 6-1, 6-4.
It was a match that was certainly pretty important for both of us from an ego standpoint. And that was able to win that match. I remember when the draw came out that I had a couple of the game's great clay quarters early. I had Thomas Muster and Alberto Mancini second and third round, so I had to get in gear in a hurry. And I played great in both of those matches, and that imbued me with a lot of confidence. Now those are matches where it's a baseline battle. In the quarterfinals, I played Goran, who was a different type of clay court, very good clay court player, but a different style. Bomb, left-handed serve, little less rhythm. And in playing in that match, there were certain things that I could control once I was in the rallies, but when he was serving, there is a lot of times where you're just walking back and forth, watching aces and service winners happen. And that's what happened. He was able to serve himself into a fourth set. I was able to persevere, but it was the biggest scare I had that tournament.
This is set.
The way that I finished the tournament in 1992 is, in my mind, still surprising because of how good Andre and Peter were and how dangerous they were. I mean, I barely scraped by Andre the year before, and this time I got out on top and I never let go. To beat Andre at all was an amazing thing for me. To beat him that handily in a semi of a major was surprising. That gave me a lot of confidence. And I went to the final against Korda, who in our day was one of the very most gifted ball strikers. He was a guy who could beat anybody at any time, but he had a lot of volatility in his game. And what he didn't have was experience in a major final at that point. Of course, he would go on to win an Australian Open and prove that he was a major champion, but he was still wondering at that point. And the surface very much favored me. He was a guy who on his day would have been like playing Ivanisevic. But that's a match that I had a lot of fear and trepidation going into because I knew what his upside potential was. And if he played his very best tennis, it was going to be a war. But I got out on top of him after a little bit of a slow start. You know, the first set was competitive. Once I got that first set, I started rolling. And it ended up being a pretty comfortable second and third set.
Je 7 match Courier. 3 manches à 0, 7-5.
I remember leaving Roland-Garros after I won it the first time, thinking if I was ever lucky enough to win that title again, I'd like to be able to express myself to the audience in their language. It's the only other major that is French spoken. All the other 3 are in English. So I thought it would be something interesting. My coach Brad Stein, he spoke French, so that he was an inspiration, and I started learning it.
Alors, je voudrais dire une petite discours en français.
I think it surprised a lot of people because I'd never done an interview in French on French television. I hadn't spoken in the media room in French.
Excusez-moi, je parle comme un vache espagnol, mais l'année prochaine.
It's something that has traveled with me ever since, in the same way that when I won in Australia, and because Brad Stein challenged me to jump into the Yarra River, I jumped into the Yarra, and it's a fluky thing that was just something to do when you win. It's another thing that people in that nation remember me by. So, and it was well received, and it's been really gratifying to see a lot of the other players continue that, whether it's Djokovic or Serena Williams, Rafa speaking in French to the crowd here. It's a sign of respect. We were now so aware of how amazing Nadal's forehand is with how much topspin that Nadal puts on his forehand. Sergi, for our time, had that type of a forehand. It had so much kick on it, so it had so much topspin and bounce. So he was a very physical player to play against because you had to use more energy to get up and get the ball before it jumped out of your strike zone.
Avantage Moguera.
He had great feel, wonderful touch, and he was a very smart player. So he was someone that you had to work your way past. I ended up with a great career record against him, but he got me in a couple of real key matches here at Roland-Garros.
L'année dernière, j'ai parlé comme un vache espagnol et
Cette année, j'ai joué contre un Belge espagnol, mais de toute façon, non, c'était pas drôle.
It's funny, and because Sergi and I were good friends, we'd played doubles together, we had a very friendly relationship, so he took it the right way, which is nice, and he's a great champion, two-time champion at Roland-Garros, an excellent player across his career, and you know, we had a lot of battles, and he got me in that final. It was a great match. Here's a great story for you. Okay, so this is before I was a champion here. This is early in my career, probably, it's either my first or my second time playing Roland-Garros. Pete Sampras and I were playing doubles that season together. We were teenagers and we were playing doubles, and it was a rainy day in Paris, no covered courts, and we were scheduled last. So we must have been out of the singles, but for whatever reason, we decided to go to a movie in the day, because we were just trying to kill time and we didn't think we were going to play. We come out of the movie and we call the tournament to check in. It's not raining when we come out of the movie, and they tell us they've moved our court and we're on court in 30 minutes. So we scramble to get over here, no warm up. We're literally running from the locker room to get to the court. We're on the clock where you can get defaulted if you're not on the court in 15 minutes. And we were just frantic to get to the court, and somehow we made it to the court. I really should look up the story and know whether I won the match or not, but I remember how frustrated and flustered we were. And this was way before the age of smartphones or even cell phones. You know, this is the late 1980s, probably 1989, something like that. So it was just a different time, and we were very unprofessional. We should have been at the courts waiting like everyone else, but we were like, let's go see a movie. There's something special about being in the city of Paris itself. I feel like I grew up here. I spent so much time here. During Roland-Garros, also in the fall, we would come play the indoor tournament across town in Bercy. So basically a month of my year for about 12 years was spent in Paris. One of the things that I did to decompress in Paris was to just walk. Just put on my headphones and go for a walk with music out in just around the city. Try and sort of blend in with the public and enjoy Paris on foot. I feel very comfortable when I come here, and it's a little bit of a reunion every time I come back.